and welcome to the first Thursday in the course of the Movevo Move Days 2025. This year we are already starting the fourth episode of the Move Days, and we are happy that you are joining us. Today, on the first Thursday of the Move Days, we welcome Natascha Untersmayr, who is a guest of ours. Some of you already know her. Some may still have a few images in their heads, maybe. Dear Natascha, thank you for being here, and we are looking forward to your exciting input today.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you very much. I'm very happy too.
Once again, I'll see you again later too.
I'll see you at the chewing experiment today. I'm glad to see you again this year and that so many of you have registered for the Move Days and are joining us today. What's it all about today? Chewing more food means you consume fewer calories. Can that be right? Of course, it's also good for your digestion and your gut, but we'll look at that in a moment.
Kann das stimmen? Natürlich tut auch der Verdauung und dem Darm etwas Gutes, aber das schauen wir uns genau jetzt gemeinsam an.
A brief introduction to me. I'm Natascha Untersmayr, and I'm an occupational health promoter, health coach, and of course an intestinal enthusiast and intestinal flora expert at Darmexpertin. Today's agenda, we're going to be fletchering together. I'll explain what it's about in a moment. I'll start with one or two words. That's 26 tons. What could it be? I'll throw it out there. What could it be for? It's for chewing. The small intestine has the main task. Another 50,000 liters of fluid are added and a pressure of 80 kilograms is exerted. Can you imagine what that is? 26 tons. Food, that's what we consume in our lives, on average more or less. You have to imagine what our intestines and what our teeth have to be able to deliver, and of course what we have to chew. Many of us, of course, pay attention to healthy nutrition, exercise and healthcare. We usually think about, what am I eating? There are lots of vegetables, fruit, proteins, whatever is on our menu. We often ask ourselves, how often do I eat? Have I had too many snacks today or too many meals in between? Did I maybe eat too late in the evening? That's what it's like. But I ask you now, how many of you ask yourselves, how do I eat? And that is the essence. How do I eat? How do I shop? How much time do I take for my meal? Now I come to the Fletchers from the beginning. That is the story and a true story of Florence Horace Fletcher. So at the end of the 19th century, he was 49 years old. He was an American successful businessman in the cheese business, was unfortunately overweight, weighed almost 99 kilograms at 164 centimeters, and was of course ill and impaired. All kinds of joint problems, heart rhythm disorders, high blood pressure. And it was clear to him that if he continued like this, he would die. He tried an experiment that no one had ever done before. He sat down and resolved to chew 50 times with every bite. His meals were quite diverse, ranging from meat, vegetables, fruits, bread, and so on, to dairy products. So he wasn't restricted in that regard. In fact, he took about 30 bites per meal and chewed, this is a slight exaggeration, 2,500 times during the course of the day. Until the food became a pulp. Look at that. Of course, he moved to that, was riding a bike, and back then, riding a bike was more like pedaling. It wasn't a bike like today. He was able to move again. He also went running later, and after 4 months, the result. October 10th, 73 kilos, Abdominal girth, 60 centimeters less. He had lost 155. By chewing well and moving. So he started writing about it in his books. He teamed up with scientists and researchers and ended up at Cambridge University, where they started to really research what chewing is all about. And by the way, when we say to Fletcher, that's why we Fletcher together today, it just means to chew well. Dr. Franz Mayr and his modern Mayr Prevent medicine, i.e. intestinal health. He is also the founder of fasting medicine and fasting cures, according to Dr. Mayr, has of course adopted the chewing in its original form from Horace Fletcher. Fasting cures. Nevertheless, there are many books on the subject, until finally the scientists also did a study. That wasn't that long ago. I'll get to that and give you a few interesting figures. Now, yes, many customers say to me, oh, the chewing, I can do that anyway. When they do a fasting cure with me, they say, yes, oh, I can do that anyway. But it is a challenge. And I say, chewing is never an end in itself, it is more of a means. You always have setbacks, forget yourself, chew faster, seem to be under the weather, freak out about the water behind you and so on, and you remember yourself again and say, okay, now I'm going to chew firmly 30 to 40 times per bite. Why is this important for our gut? I'll explain that very briefly. The gut can absorb our food when it is a certain size, that is 1 millimeter. Now imagine we are eating a really great steak, taking a big bite, chew it 3 times, swallow it, and then have a cold drink. Rinse down, and the stomach is supposed to crush it. At some point, it gets tired and says, no, I'll let it through this time. The small intestine can't cope with it. A piece of meat goes into the large intestine. It is about 37 degrees there. Now imagine that at home he takes an oven, sets it to 40 degrees, and leaves a piece of steak in it for about 16 hours. What is happening? It then starts to smell, and that happens in our large intestine with undigested food. But that's a different direction. Today, we also want to explain how we can save calories by chewing, and that was a brief explanation of why chewing is important for our gut health, for our
eine kleine Erklärung, warum das Kauen aus Gesundheitsgründen wichtig für unsere Darm, für unsere
diet, for our nutrition. Unfortunately, there has been a movement in our country since the 1970s. Fast food, coffee to go. Everything has to be to go fast, faster, faster, sitting in front of the computer and eating. Unfortunately, everything goes to so. That's why I'm here today, to show you a few numbers. I hope you'll take these with you when I tell you that you can reduce the number of calories you consume by 11.9% by chewing properly. A study was done not too long ago. The study was also explained in the book by Dr. Adrian Schulte, a Mayr doctor in Germany. They took obese and normal weight men and looked at their eating behavior. Both ate the same portions, but the overweight men ate much faster, chewed less, and swallowed more. Therefore, the portion sizes were a lot, yes, a large quantity. That was the difference. Now, based on this experiment, the scientists have calculated that people of normal weight take in about 11.9% less on average. Converted into kilocalories, let's assume that an adult man takes in about 2,000 calories a day. The potential savings through good chewing are approximately 240 calories per day. Now let's calculate that over a year. It comes out to 86,800 calories. A lot, isn't it? If we convert that to fat, that is 10 kilograms of fat that we save by chewing well. Remember at the beginning, how much food do we consume in a year? 26 tons, approximately. We are looking at about 3 tons of food a year. Now imagine 3 tons of food, how many eggs, chickens, tomatoes, vegetables, fruit, that is what we save. Through good chewing. This is what I would like to teach you today, and we will do it together. With chewing experiment, I invite you. I say, would you like to Fletcher with me? And I immediately say, Marion, would you like to start with me and Fletcher now? This is a 7-day challenge. Now, at the beginning of the move days, it's a good time to meet during Lent, where you just take a piece of bread. We will show you in a moment, chew 30 to 40 times, each bite really well, until it is a liquid mush, and only then swallow.
Wirklich gut anspeichern, ja, bis das ein flüssiger Brei ist und erst dann schlucken.
The aim of good chewing training is actually for this mush to slide down the throat by itself. We're not going to show the mush today, don't worry. Okay, Marion, are you ready for our chewing experiment? Will you Fletcher with me?
Dear Natascha, I will Fletcher with you. It's an expression I've never heard before, but
it really does exist.
Yes, I saw it. The definition has already been explained here. I'm very excited. Chewing it 30 to 40 times is normal for a roll like that. It looks good.
Exactly, I brought something with me, and that is a roll, a simple white bread roll. Why am I explaining why it is white bread? It is not quite as fresh. I also kept it like this on purpose, Marion, because you have to salivate it well, so you have the best chewing experience. So the first tip is, if you're doing chewing training, buy yourself a bread roll, let it sit for a day or two, and only then start.
So now let's take a tip. How big should it be?
Well, take a guess.
So a normal bite or rather larger?
A normal bite?
Yes, it would probably be something like that.
Yes, very good. Now a little like that. So, what do? Put it in your mouth and then store it. Chew well, don't show off the porridge until it becomes liquid, preferably 30 to 40 times, and count. And I'm not joking when I say that, but count correctly, because by the time you're at 18 or 19, you forget and say, oh, it's time already, and swallow it down. No, count. Good. And now I don't have the candle with me. When you need to concentrate, for example, where you say, I'm really counting to 40, you can light a candle, observe in the candlelight, and really count. Okay? Shall we?
Do we need a timer or can we manage?
No, I'll count. Okay, good, go.
Oh, it was a big bite.
That's the first adjustment. It was a big bite. So 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going. 7. Now that she's chewing, 8, 9, now you keep counting. What happens? 6 salivary glands produce saliva, and many others also produce small amounts, which we have in our mouths. The saliva has valuable enzymes that which the small intestine needs, of course, as nourishment for its walls. And enzymes that then break down the food in the small intestine. Where are you now, roughly speaking?
36.
Wow, how does it feel?
It's slowly turning into a pulp.
Pulp, very good, yes.
I can feel myself starting to swallow a little.
We don't want that, do we? We don't want that. Exactly this swallowing reflex, just like Marion has now done, comes by itself at some point, where we say, now I want to swallow, but in the moment, please pause, salivate, and move forward. Do you feel something now or taste something?
Can I swallow or not yet?
Well, if it's a pulp, we don't want to see it, but if it's a pulp, it's a bit sweet. What does it taste like?
Yes, it actually tastes sweet.
I see.
Because at the beginning, it really is old bread. It's not a great taste experience, very dry at the beginning and doesn't really taste of anything. Yes, but the longer you chew it, the more you realize that there is something there, that it's not just empty, so to speak. So you realize
Natascha has put powdered sugar in it. No, she didn't.
we have sugar fasting, so that would be the first one.
No, I didn't cheat. Don't worry. Exactly. And that is this experience. So please take it with you. The bite was a bit big, so take smaller bites and start slowly. Digestion begins even before you take a bite. Okay? Now the bread roll is not that great, but imagine you have a good steak and a salad and it smells like a steakhouse. Mouth-watering, isn't it? And now, Marion asked me, why is it sweet at the end? Well, look, we have the bread is wheat bread, and the dough has been broken down so much by our 32 teeth and saliva that it is reduced to the smallest value of carbohydrates, and we taste it as sweet. This is the glucose. Exactly, we have predigested. And they say what is well digested is well chewed, actually.
Are there figures for how much we chew on average? So now we know how often we should be chewing this, but how much do we actually chew on average?
Yes, it is quite different. In fact, when we are sitting somewhere in the inn, it is as if we are saying, look around you. No one chews properly. Even though we know, oh, I should chew. Grandma already said, you should chew 32 times, you have 32 teeth, right? Sound familiar? Now something just clicked. That's why, yes, but nobody does it. Why? And indeed, when people are sitting in company now, talking, chewing, and because of that there is a big lump there, it is rinsed with a drink.
I was just going to say that. With the first few bites, I thought it would actually be kind of good too, to have a drink.
It's not. So I would advise against pushing down while chewing, because that is exactly the mistake. There is a piece that doesn't pass. Then we consume something cold, drink something fizzy. Then we feel a brief twinge here in the middle of the throat. Have you experienced that?
I actually experienced this last week.
Yes, that is it. The problem here is it's too cold. I have to warm up the cold thing that you just drank. The throat works peristaltically. Whether you are lying down or standing, it does its thing, and it pushes the food towards the stomach. Food goes to the stomach to be broken down. So please do not drink or eat during the meal.
What is the truth then? Because many say drink before meals, so that I already have a pleasant feeling of satiety before I start eating.
Does it make sense to do that? Yes, it makes sense to have a glass of water, still water or lemon water, not cold but normal, half an hour before a meal, not immediately before. normal temperature, so normal temperature. And then please do this experiment, preferably with a bread roll, chew 30 to 40 times without drinking, and then you will see when the first feeling of satiety arrives.
Und dann werdet ihr sehen, wann der erste Sättigungsgefühl eintrifft.
By the way, with the Japanese, it is the same today.
Sobald der erste das erste
When they feel full, they get up and are finished with their meal. You will realize that you won't be able to finish the whole roll. You will already feel full. So I invite you. Thanks for helping me demonstrate, Marion.
Danke, dass du jetzt vorgekaut und mitgemacht hast.
Thank you for the delicious roll. I won't finish it though.
Ich werde sie dir nicht wegessen.
No, but it looks good. So it's best to try to really chew on white bread or rye bread until it's sweet. That means it's time. I'm ready to go to the small intestine or to the stomach and then to the small intestine.
Dünndarm oder Richtung Magen und dann Dünndarm zu gehen. Ja?
Thank you for participating.
Mitmachen.
Yes, maybe another point of contact, because it's now in our protected setting. So except that we have live spectators, so to speak, there is no problem. You take the time, you can hardly wait in peace. But do you have a tip? Because you also mentioned before when you eat now.
Hast du da einen Tipp, weil du vorher auch angesprochen hast, wenn man jetzt essen ist?
If I'm eating now and need 2 minutes for each bite,
Da jetzt 2 Minuten kaue,
is there any possibility of how to
Möglichkeit, wie man das
implement it in my everyday life to a socially acceptable extent when I'm not sitting at home alone with my dry roll?
trockenen Semmel zu Hause sitzt?
Oh yes, oh yes. And what you do is you take your portion, you sit down. First, you take your time. So you really take time for your evening meal or lunch. You're with your partner or friends or family. Together, put down the fork and knife. Talk.
Reden. Ja?
When there is no more talking, take the fork and knife, small bites. I'm always the last, but it's worth it to me.
Aber das ist es mir wert.
Many think that Natascha eats a lot because I always eat for a long time, but I eat the least, but for the longest. Take your time, enjoy every bite. You will notice that those around you look at you and say, aha, and then you say, this tastes so good and smells so good, and you motivate others to say, aha, mine tastes good too.
Mal zu sagen, aha, mein schmeckt auch.
They think, wait a minute, should I pause now
Innehalten und mir Zeit.
and take time? So we nourish ourselves, we don't gorge ourselves, but we nourish ourselves.
Wir stopfen nicht, wir nähren uns.
We give our body and our mind our soul food.
Und unserem Geist, unserer Seele Nahrung.
How we take our time. Yes, that's right.
Important point, we are not in the middle of Lent, but actually at the beginning, and some of us are taking a closer look at the topic. What do I actually eat and how do I actually eat? And what do I prefer not to eat? So it's always about doing without. You also touched on a very important point that I would like to emphasize again at the end, and to deal with a little, how do I actually eat?
Zum Schluss auch herausstreichen möchte, auch sich damit ein bisschen auseinanderzusetzen, wie esse ich eigentlich und
Why do I
esse
eat?
ich? Also
Most of the
meistens
time
ist
it's
es ja
not
nicht,
okay,
esse,
I eat to have
um
energy
etwas
to
zu haben, um
survive.
zu überleben, sondern
But
meistens sind
mostly
auch
it's for other
Gründe.
reasons. And that you really just take time for it, consciously enjoy it, and also actually take time for yourself in the process of eating, and thus do something good for yourself. That's a very important point.
Sich Zeit nimmt für sich selbst und auch somit sich was Gutes tut. Das ist ein sehr wichtiger Punkt.
Exactly. Thank you for summarizing it so well. At the beginning of Lent, whatever you decide to do or embark on, whatever you plan to do during Lent, pay attention to the good things. You will be amazed. You will also be amazed at how the portion sizes get smaller.
Ihr werdet auch staunen, wie die Portionsgrößen kleiner werden.
I'll definitely take that with me. And thank you very much, Natascha, for joining us again. I hope you also take something with you, and we hope you'll tune in to our next program. As I said, every Tuesday there is the Do It Day, the 15-minute participation session, so next Tuesday, the first one, and also in the coming weeks, every Thursday, the Thursday Talk format, where we always have exciting personalities as guests here with us, where we delve into a wide range of topics and where we simply use the time together, achieve more together, and also have fun together.
In unterschiedlichste Themen und wo wir einfach gemeinsam die Zeit nutzen, gemeinsam mehr bewegen, gemeinsam auch Freude haben.
And yes, I don't have much more to say. Make sure to tune in. We're glad you're with us and see you next time.
Bleibt dabei, wir freuen uns, dass ihr dabei seid und bis zum nächsten Mal.